So, hey, Webster, the last 2 episodes of the Touringcast, people are actually downloading it and listening to it. Can you believe that? Had 100 people across 2 episodes.
Well, I want to know, how do you know that, Frank Gardner? You're not DSO. On this third and hopefully not last edition of the Supercar Insiders Touringcast, we document a fall, 11 or 14 drops the ball, the general makes a tough call, and it all ends up as a corporate brawl. Yes, welcome to the Touringcast. I'm the Warpster and with me is Frank Gardner. What is that hat you're wearing?
I've been inspired, Webster. I went out and I bought a white terry toweling hat because I was inspired by the efforts of Frank Gardner with the BMWs in the previous 2 episodes.
The podcast minion is going to nick that for his street party.
No, I bought him one too.
Nice.
Sound engineer's got one too. If he was here, he'd be wearing it.
And sounding like Frank Gardner. Well, this one should be interesting. We're going into a bit of uncharted territory, if you like, in terms of people generally tend to avoid this one. DSO.
All I can say, Warbster, is you're a braver man than I, but I'm here with you. It means that we're gonna live through this one together. We're getting out of the DeLorean. Welcome back to 1987, ladies and gentlemen out there in podcast world. But instead of watching and commentating on a race, we're going to discuss what is arguably the biggest event in the racing history of GMH Holden in this country. Warbster?
The Polariser incident.
Yep.
It marked a temporary end to one of the longest and most successful partnerships in Australian racing history and helped start an equally long collaboration in the aftermath.
You can kick it off.
I'm just going to say something before we begin. I'm not trying to disrespect Peter Brock. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, but we've discussed the subject of the Polariser in both our commentaries of the Touringcast and in some episodes of the Warpstercast. All I want to do is get the facts out there. If anyone disagrees, that's fine. That's what history's about. There are going to be disputes. There are going to be things that are put out there by other people who think I'm talking complete rubbish. That's fine. The only thing that I insist is that everyone plays the facts, not the opinions, and not the emotions.
Yeah, and look, we've done a fair bit of research, and there's a lot of information out there from historically from the journos who are involved in it, right in the middle of it, and all the other players. Everybody's trotted out their opinion, but we're going to deal with facts. So I suppose you could say it all kicked off in June 1984, Warbster.
In, of all places, the Sarthe region of France at Le Mans. The month of Le Mans strained all within the Holden dealer team / Team Australia setup. For those who didn't listen to the last episode of the Warpstercast, the Holden dealer team, backed by Bob Jane, rented a Porsche 956 from John Fitzpatrick Racing to go over and win Bathurst and basically show the Froggies how it was done type thing.
Win Le Mans, not Bathurst. It's okay. We can edit that bit. No, we can leave that bit in.
No, we'll leave that bit in.
So, a lack of parts, an absolute dog of a car, this 956. Endless problems. They were missing technical information. Far too much pre-race hype.
I'm sure you can remember being around back then, how much there was.
It was crazy. And above all else, Peter Perfect's own expectations. He wasn't called Peter Perfect for nothing. He was a perfectionist in everything that he did, and partly that was a bit of the snowball that the more successful he got, the more he believed his own publicity.
I think also there's the fact of trying to run a business in the pre-internet age from halfway around the world, staying up until all hours of the morning, placing phone calls, meetings, minutes, all that sort of thing.
Yep.
Probably played on him as well. But it's fair to say it all added up on him, and Larry Perkins crashing the car out of the race was almost the last straw.
Yeah, look, Brocky was a lot of things, and history shows that he was a brilliant racing driver, but he wasn't much of a businessman.
I think even he would admit that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point, I think Alan Gow said, when he came in just after the Polariser incident, Brock wasn't a signatory to the checking account. He didn't even have a key to the building.
Yep. So, Brocky returns to Australia looking and feeling awful. There's rumours that he has cancer. There's other rumours that he's ingested too many glass fibres from running the Porsche or from Bob Jane's Monza. Either way, he goes to see somebody who's already treating his mother, his brother Lewis, and his partner Bev. And that gentleman's name, Warbster?
Dr. Eric Dowker.
So Dowker was a chiropractor in the outer northeastern suburbs of Melbourne with additional interest in natural therapies.
Under his guidance, Brock stopped smoking. He was a pack-a-day man at that point. He stopped drinking. He drank fairly heavily.
Yep.
Became vegetarian. And generally started looking after his health as a top driver should.
Yeah, things that that we take for granted in the modern era for race drivers. They were hardly athletes back then compared to what they are now. But that wasn't the problem. It was the interest generated in the properties of crystals and magnets.
Crystals were being waved over food, according to John Harvey, which was harmless enough, but then they started appearing in the race shop, on engines and in cars.
Mid-1985 saw the departure of Larry Perkins from the Holden dealer team after telling Brock he was acting like a loony and doing damage to the team.
Perkins would partner Dick Johnson at Bathurst, for anyone who remembers the wheel nearly falling off the Mustang and him driving it down the hill with half the tyre off. Before starting Perkins Engineering, engine man Neil Burns, who was another sort of hardcore engineering guy, departed around the same time. And it's fair to say those two won a fair few Bathursts between them for the Holden dealer team.
Absolutely. So I suppose the question we need to ask for those of you listening at home, what is an energy polariser?
Brock told Wheels at the time, it's a magic cure. It makes a shithouse car good.
Right. So, Warbster, how can a magic cure make a shithouse car good?
Well, as Brock again told Wheels at the time, the polariser is a transmitter that sends out an ultra-high frequency charge that's neither organic nor magnetic. It's a form of energy called Orgone energy. It makes a car run quieter, smoother, and takes away a lot of the oscillations and squeaks because the molecules are in nice alignment.
Right. I'm going to throw my snippet in here.
Go for it.
When Moffat came over to drive with Brock, he was given a road car to take for a drive. He took it for a drive, came back and said, one of the HDT road car specials, said, this thing's a piece of shit. Moff went and had lunch with Brocky, and allegedly in the meantime, suspension was completely changed out, tyre pressures altered, spring rates. It was essentially reset up. Moff came back after lunch, and Brocky said to Moff, "Take the car back out again. Tell me what you think." Moffat came back and said, "It's a completely different car. What have you done?" Brock's answer:
Polariser.
"I fitted a polariser."
So what was a polariser? What did you get for your return on $478?
It's a lot of money back in 87.
Especially for a metal box containing 2 magnets, 2 crystals, a wire, and some resin. Fed energy by the polariser sticker that you'd fitted on the back window, which acted as an antenna.
Right. Okay, so nothing scientifically dubious there. We're not going to take a position on whether or not it works, but with engineering types, this sort of talk went down like a lead balloon. Let's face it, Dowker's influence had grown to a point where he became a close advisor to Brock, as well as being credited with design of HDT products.
No one can pinpoint exactly when the energy polariser first appeared on race cars. They appeared on race cars before the road cars, but John Harvey first knew about it when one fell off in practice for the 1985 Sandown 500. At this point it was able to be contained within the teams, but things were getting hot and Holden started to get a little nervous.
So, Harry Firth, Brock's longtime mentor, warned him to keep it at Nutfield, where Brocky's house was, and not Port Melbourne, HDT, because Holden won't wear it. That was a Firth quote. Brock proceeded regardless.
Ray Borrett, HDT of Holden engineer and HDT liaison, a man who should know about it, was uneasy on the subject when questioned. It's fair to say at this point, Fisherman's Bend just wanted it to go away.
Yep. So Brock continued as a Holden driver and PR operative, but whispers were about that the Gizmo made cars designed for leaded fuel run on unleaded. It was a goldmine if true, but Holden was strangely quiet about it. The energy polariser went to the United States to be tested. The outcome of the testing depends on who you talk to, but the data was sealed by agreement, so it's unlikely we'll ever know. By inference, if they've sealed the data, it can't have been good.
This America testing at the Milford Proving Ground, which is like if proving grounds were ultra mega sized, was thanks to John Rock, the former Holden marketing director who'd moved back home previously and was in the GM truck division.
Whilst over there, Brock was convinced that his little box was about to be made standard fitment on all GM products. So he let a US dealer evaluate 2 VL model Commodores and was also convinced that he could sell 5,000 cars in the States, when at the time he'd struggled to build 1,500 for local consumption.
This is all good and well, but the Commodore was never designed for left-hand drive, didn't comply with US regulations, and he needed a lot of help from Holden to make it happen.
A hell of a lot of help from Holden to make it happen. So Holden had more pressing issues than that. For example, it couldn't prove that the polariser actually did anything.
In November 1986, Holden released a statement stating that the polariser had no technical merit and could not endorse its use. Holden was warranting and guaranteeing all HDT product, not Brock.
Which meant that you were buying a brand new Holden Commodore from Holden. It went to HDT for work to be done on it, for it to be tricked up, so to speak. But it was still a Holden, and Holden still did the guarantee work and the warranty work.
Long story short, if a customer decided to sue Holden because the polariser didn't do all these wonderful things that Brock said, it had no way to prove it.
So there was also the issue of the polariser only working best with 22 psi of pressure in the tyres, which according to load rating calculations he could legally do, but with a recommendation of an extra 6 psi for constant high-speed use. Long-term sponsor Bridgestone didn't like it, but could do nothing about it.
Effectively, that comes down to ADRs, which correctly you can put 22 psi in tyres. The load rating will still be safe, but you've got wear, you've got the problem of sidewalls having problems, you've got the bigger footprint, but at the expense of road holding and also handling,
yep.
And also fuel consumption.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. So Holden officially asked Brock to drop the polariser. Brock said no and removed his signature from the new Commodore Group A cars, which were built to homologate the race cars, unless they were fitted with polarisers.
On November 12, Holden boss Charles Chapman told his dealer network there would be no more polarising. HDT, on the surface at least, agreed.
So Brock distanced the polariser from HDT, starting several companies in the process. CGM Marketing was intended to market and distribute. DB Tech, owned by Dowker and Brock, was to build them. And Perry Integration Warbster,
a subsidiary of HDT Special Vehicles, was to fit, test and certify them, as well as design all future HDT products.
So, in a nutshell, HDT built the cars and sent them to Perry, circumventing Holden's edict.
Not the nicest way to go about it, but it fitted to the letter of the agreement, if not necessarily the spirit.
February 12, 1987 warps to the beginning of the end.
A conference at Fisherman's Bend with Holden's head of marketing, Rob McInnery, and his deputy, John Crennan, detailed how concerned Holden and the dealers were. Holden considered that,
quote, Brock has broken the spirit and intent of the agreement reached in December with respect to the marketing of the energy polariser and product modifications that contravened the Australian design rules.
Then came the real kicker. The Australian Holden Dealer Council would advise non-purchase of HDT modified vehicles and stop all dealer funds to the HDT racing team.
So Brock advised legal action would proceed, but then finally towed the line. An absolute end to polarising by HDT. However, fitment after purchase was another matter.
Later that same day, Holden found out another car was to be unveiled on February 20, the Director.
Grant Steers, long-term friend of Brock and HDT liaison to Holden, asked him, prior to public release or prior to sale or prior to customer delivery, can you provide detailed listings of model specification? Can you provide us the new model to HMC, Holden, for engineering department review? Please advise by return today.
Brock did advise. The specifications you requested of the 87 Director have been outlined on numerous occasions via the Wheels Car magazine. Peter Robinson, the editor, his colleagues and associates have conducted numerous tests accumulating the drivability, handling, safety, durability and performance test data.
So having pushed GMH to the limit over the Polariser, Brock was now telling Holden to go and buy a car magazine to find out about its newest product.
There is a fair difference between some journos blasting around in a prototype and the type of detailed work needed to comply with ADRs and to carry the warranties and guarantees of a major car corporation. This is especially true with regard to as big of a change as the independent rear suspension, the modified Monza system which was fitted.
So, Holden's General Counsel, MHG Whiteman, indicated as much in a hand-delivered letter giving Brock until 10 a.m. on Monday, February 16 to provide the engineering example and specifications to clear the outstanding fears that Holden had. HDT's response was in part,
Ex-GMH engineer Ray Borrett approved the vehicle for export to Europe, USA and Japan if we so wished. Ray Borrett will thoroughly and completely endorse the specifications as he did previously.
So the previous September, Borrett had given a prototype he drove briefly, a roadworthy, so it could be tested overseas for magazine articles. At the least, Holden needed to check noise, especially emissions, brakes compliance, and most majorly, needed to perform a new series of crash tests.
This was because of the independent rear suspension. Brock hadn't finished the Director yet though. He provided no example. Holden's board conferred, then made the decision. After 19 years of association, it was over.
And the letter stated, this letter is to confirm that as at 10 a.m. today, there has been no compliance with the request for delivery. As a courtesy, it is confirmed that following non-compliance with the request, this company will proceed to protect the interests of itself, the dealer network, and the community without notice to you.
The finished Director was unveiled anyway. Brock talking about a reconciliation and talking up a $250 million export order from his 5,000 cars that were going to America.
This was despite not passing any of the Australian design rules, much less the US rules, that it would take $1 million and a year to get close to US approval, by which time the VL was going to be replaced in the model lineup in Australia by the VN.
Bottom line, not going to happen, regardless of whatever spin the general media swallowed.
And I think it's probably reasonable to touch now, Warbster, that the general media and the motoring media, there were some who drank the Kool-Aid and some who didn't. There were a number of fairly well-documented people who wrote what they saw as common sense, only to be blacklisted by Brock, Dowker, Beverley and the HDT group.
I think, though, that if you look at back then, I mean, you had 60 Minutes. I mean, Ian Leslie writing Brock a cheque and saying, I want one, without actually looking into the underlying problems that were contingent on Brock to solve with Holden in order to salvage the relationship.
And I think that leads beautifully to playing the underdog was something that Brocky did really, really well. He accused Holden of trying to take his business off him, saying that the government would intervene in his favour and banning all hostile press from HDT events, as we just touched upon.
And there were very few journos left by the end of all this, because every single time the Polariser was written about and it wasn't overwhelmingly glad-handed, Brock just cut people out.
Yep, so John Harvey resigned along with most of the HDT senior management. Without Holden supplying inventory, if they weren't giving him cars, He didn't have a dealer network. He didn't have the volumes needed to make HTT profitable. The situation was impossible. Drowning in debt, it was all over by the end of 1987.
Now, whilst he dropped it publicly, Brock never stopped believing in the Polariser, but came to the conclusion that it was too soon for the public and quietly dropped it from subsequent projects, specifically the Oztech Automotive Ford modification business that he started.
Yep.
He came back to the Holden fold in 1991 with Larry Perkins and back to the factory Holden racing team 3 years later.
Brocky was under the management of John Crennan, one of the men responsible for the events of 8 years before, who was more interested in Brock's Holden money than his skills. And I think that probably not only Brock's Holden money, bringing Brocky back into the Holden fold brought the tens, nay, hundreds of thousands of Brock supporters back in line with Holden.
Oh, absolutely. But no matter what happened, the events of February 1987 haunted Brock's career until the end.
Absolutely. And it was quite possibly the greatest fall from grace in the history of the Australian motor industry.
I couldn't think of anything that even came close.
No.
I mean, Brock had a gold mine on his hands. All he had to do was basically let Holden do what they wanted to a certain extent, or go along with Holden's view of the world, because Holden effectively handed the reins to him in 1980. They gave him all the support they could. They bent over backwards for him for years. And then the second they said no, with the Monza back in 84, he just started going on a warpath, and it all just imploded 3 years later.
And history shows that the Walkinshaw organisation made a hell of a lot of money out of the Australian motoring public and out of Holden, by default, running HSV. HSV was the natural successor to HTT. And look, if Brocky had kept his head down and had dropped the Polariser, we'd be seeing a different landscape. Brocky might have been involved in some more Bathurst wins. Who knows? It might have been 11 or 14. But history shows that it was a conglomeration of unfortunate series of events, and it leaves like-minded people scratching their heads.
I think the thing with, and I wasn't around back in 87. I wasn't quite old enough to be around at the time.
You young whippersnapper, I remember it.
Whippersnapper. But I think that Brocky, it was just something where I just think he lost his mind almost. It was almost like he just got to a certain point and then just sense went out the window, and he was going to get his way whether he wanted it or not, and to hell with the consequences.
And I wonder whether it was because he was fast becoming the most successful Australian racing driver, touring car driver in modern history. He was the king of the mountain. Everybody loved him. You either loved him or hated him, and I hate to use a bad pun, but he was polarising. If you were a Ford fan, you hated him, and pretty much everyone else loved him.
As with all great sports stars, there's many shades of grey under the surface. To simply portray Brock as the white hat and Moffat as the black hat is a total inaccuracy. Moffat, away from the track, was a genial, happy, nice person, and Brock had his moments where he could be a real shit.
Oh yeah, and look, we won't. I think it's been. We don't need to go into the personal issues, that surrounded Brocky over the years, but today. But it's all out there for you to go and have a look at. The book written by Bill Tuckey and John Harvey, The Rise and Fall of Peter Brock. If you can find it, have a read of it. It certainly tells an alternate story to what the disciples want you to believe.
In summary, was Brock a hero? Yes. Was he a good racing driver? Yes.
Absolutely.
Was he a flawed human being like all the rest of us? Absolutely.
So we need to go safety car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags.
How does it happen? You're booting a ding, or welding something, or work until you think that you'll burst. You should have read that label first. A hard night's work needs a big cold caffeine kick, and the best caffeine kick is Monster. Monster Energy. You know how it happens. You're doing some paint spray, or fixing an under tray, or trying to finish before it gets worse. You've sure got a thirst. A hard-earned thirst needs a big energy hit, And man, I shouldn't be drinking this shit. It can come at any time. When Brad or King ring, it's never funny, because I always seem to be sitting on the dunny, but the lads have smashed up some cars. Or maybe Wally needs some spare guards. They ain't playing cards. You're not cooking a cow, you're showing them how. Matter of fact, I'm having a heart attack now. A hard-earned thirst needs a big black drink, and the unhealthiest drink is Monster. Monster Energy.
And welcome back to the Touringcast, and having gone through all that controversy, we'll give you a bit of a lightning mood by going to commentate yet another race DSO.
Absolutely, Warbister. We're going to stay in the DeLorean. We're going to jump forward a couple of years from the Brock escapades and the Polariser escapades to 89. So, and we're heading all the way to sunny Queensland, which you'll see some things in the telecast in a minute that proves it was anything but. So we're off to Dick Johnson's home track to Lakeside for round 3 of the 1989 Australian Touring Car Championship.
It's a fine day, the 16th of April. Not really good weather if you're anywhere south of the border, but up there in Canada. Well, we're Mexicans, so they're Canada.
Nice.
It's a very, very nice day. For those who want to watch along, go to YouTube and pop in 1989 ATCC Lakeside, round 3. And it should be the 42-minute version uploaded by DVR8.
Yeah, we're going to commentate off the 42-minute version. The others have some editing in the middle of it. Without further ado, those of you playing at home, if you want to click play now.
And it's Quagmire.
There we have Gary Wilkinson looking resplendent in the Channel 7 jacket.
Which is not red, thank God.
Which I was about to say, major change from the previous red of the jacket.
We won't go into too much detail as far as the 89 cars and drivers and who's who, because we went through all of that in episode 1 of the Warpstercast.
Yep.
You also might want to forget some of the history we went through there if you want to be surprised. And there's Peter Griffin.
Yeah. G'day, Mike.
G'day, Mike.
Love those glasses, Mike.
Oh, it's just...
It's a beautiful sunny day here in Queensland, and there's some blokes sitting on the back of a farm truck. I can't see anyone with a can of 4X in their hand, but it might only be early. Oh, and it's pouring with rain, so
I think
2 weeks earlier it absolutely belted with rain, and this is what they were supposed to have raced in, except, oh, and there's the OB truck and a tortoise and an eel. Or a snake. No, it was an eel.
Maybe
and
they're
towing a guy on a boat. Yeah, no, they're towing someone on a board. Yeah. And I think everything drained into the lake.
I also think that possibly they should have put everyone in jet boats for the original weekend and just raced the jet boats. No? Okay.
Or raced on the lake.
No, fair enough.
So here we have the Park Royal recap, obviously fairly obvious. Oh, and
there's Chris Lambden.
Chris Lambden in the Borough Pez. Commodore into the fence. There's
Brad Jones
in the 105 FM, and that's a car on fire
Terry
in a big
Finnegan.
way. That's Finnegan.
The Food Works.
His crew will need to begin again. Sorry,
that was terrible.
It was terrible. And there's Terry, and I had a big crash. I got it all wrong. Backed it in, split the fuel tank, and my ass got a bit hot, but I'm okay, and nothing we can't fix. Quick, get it, no, the door won't open. Roll around. Ricky Bob, actually, he never did a Ricky Bobby, he actually did come back. So, fairly nasty crash, and there's Dick. Say goodnight, Dick.
Hey, Dick, you're doing a bit better than you did in episode 1, mate.
Yeah, no, travelling nicely there, Dick. Now, I haven't watched this Warbster, so I've got no idea who's going to win. So I'm going to call this by the seat of my pants.
It's been a while since I've watched.
Hey, he's got almost blonde hair. He's the Park Royal pole sitter.
Are you sure that blondness isn't just reflected off his overalls?
Oh, who knows? Oh, and some dickhead waving in the background. Good on you, mate. Yeah, no worries. There's a TV camera. I'm going to wave as I walk past.
Can you do any of those without somebody waving? There's 11 or 14.
11 or 14.
Being
passed by
Bowie.
Dick.
No, that's Bowie. That's 18. That's Bowie.
Yeah, it is 18. Missed the number.
He doesn't look very happy.
No. Oh, but perhaps because he ran Brad Jones off the track. I know. And there goes Brocky. Oh, and Brocky runs into Brad as well. Not real clever, Brocky. You're paying the bills for both your cars. Oh, stylish hat, Pierre. Very European.
Very nice.
Very European.
I mean, it's not up there with sort of the Terry Howling Trilby that you've got, DSO, but it's definitely sartorial elegance at its finest.
I was going to say, I really do hope we see Frank Gardner. Tell you what, the Nissan's hopping around a bit over those bumps.
It's probably a bit soft there, but
I reckon it's really
getting
soft.
Getting a bit of velocity over the top there.
Absolutely.
Interesting exercise.
Picking up a front wheel.
So, do we think Richo's trying, or
are you giving it a shot, Richo? Jeez, doesn't he look so young? Doesn't look a thing like his son.
You kidding, right?
Much.
Yeah.
So,
well, he's got smaller teeth.
Yeah, and have a look at that. You've got Nissan Motorsport. I wonder who's paying the bills. You've got beach umbrellas. You've got caps. You've got Richo in a stylish shirt, and there's everybody's mate Tone. Good on you, Tone. Tone's drifting at Lakeside.
Does he know that Anthony Longhurst bloke who's racing in the M4 at the 12-hour?
I think it's his son.
Okay, fair enough.
Who's racing with the son of the baby-faced assassin Glenn Seaton. There's Moff. Oh, look, and we're going to talk up the Park Royal because we're staying there.
It's not Moff, it's Greg Hansford. But
was that Hansford? Sorry, my bad. In Moff's car.
Yep.
So, we're at the Park Royal. It's so beautiful, Brisbane Park Royal. We choose to stay at the Park Royal Hotel. Look at that Valiant.
I prefer the DSO cottage, to be honest.
And there's... Thanks. Did you give it a like on TripAdvisor?
Not yet, but I will.
Thanks. Yeah. So, I've got to get my rating up.
Yep. DJ's.
Yeah, Dick's sort of got a wry smile. That's because he's sitting on pole, but who knows what's going to happen in the race.
And I think he's on his, 10th or 11th race in a row for DJ Adewey.
Big grin there.
Yep, and there's Brocky being passed.
By Dick. And there's someone out on a boat on the lake.
That one of them must be one of the jet boats. They just arrived late.
Got a skier. Yeah, nice. Nice. It's the so here we go with the lineups.
DJ in a Sierra.
P1 Dick Johnson on the front row, rounded out with Brocky in a Sierra. Jim Richards in a Nissan.
In a not Sierra. Tony Longhurst in a Sierra.
All in the 54s.
John Bowen in a Sierra.
5462.
I bet Richo feels surrounded.
Just quietly.
Medecky
in a Sierra 54.6. They're all pretty tight, competitive 54.7.
Finally, a not Sierra. A not Sierra.
So, Greg Hansford in a Sierra. Andrew Bagnall in a Sierra. So we've had
8 Sierras.
We've had the top 10 cars separated by about a second. And they'd say that current supercars is ultra competitive.
Oh, look at that old-fashioned
Here we go. Look at that grid, and off they go. Someone's dropped the flag. They've got cars going everywhere.
I wonder if Dick had a dick problem this year.
Dropping a wheel, so
Richo.
Down the bottom to whatever corner that is. I don't know Lakeside that well. Peter Jackson corner or Yokohama corner.
Oh, Pierre's got it a bit. They slid him a lot in the old days.
Did they ever? Cold tyres, opening lap.
Yeah, Sierra, Nissan, Sierra. For those paying attention to the Holden set, Larry Perkins isn't here, and Gricey's not here either. So if you're a Holden fan,
it's
you
slim pickings.
Might want to tune out right now.
Yep, or barrack for something other than a Holden. Possibly a Sierra.
You've only got one choice.
Yep,
really. Yeah. Well, is it the red Sierra, the white Sierra, the yellow Sierra, the blue Sierra?
The red and white Sierra.
The red, white, and blue Sierra that looks like a skyline. No, wait, that's actually a skyline.
Yep.
Never mind.
So here's Tony homing in on Brocky. Come on, Tone. Two-turn Tone gets it in the inside of Brocky. Got the run. Pushed out wide.
No, he's got it.
No, he makes it stick. Well done, Tone. Yeah, top bit of driving, son. You didn't even have to run into anybody.
Reigning ATCC round winner at Lakeside. One of the only races in 1988 that was taken off the Shell team.
Yes.
I think the only other one was Bathurst, which was won by Tony Longhurst, and the Pepsi 250 at Oran Park, which was won by Brocky in his BMW because hardly anyone else turned up. And the South Australian Cup at the end of the year, which was won by the Holdens.
Now, was that at Malala or AIR?
No, that was at the Adelaide Grand Prix.
Oh, yes. End of the year, November. My apologies.
Yeah, when the Sierras forgot to put their jungle juice in and put regular fuel in and evaporated.
Oh.
DJ was not best pleased with that, but...
Now, we're not saying the Sierras ran illegal fuel.
No, it was illegal fuel. It was Darwin blend. I'm not sure what Darwin blend's a euphemism for, but I can guarantee the Nissans probably ran it at Winton a few years later.
Yes. So, here we go. We're looking at the back of the Peter... No, the Mobile. Oh, well, of course.
That's the Brocky car.
It's the Brocky race. Dulux, ICI Dulux, Auto Colour, Brock spoiler. So there's...
They're still having trouble with...
Still haven't quite got this race cam and rear spoiler thing quite working.
Yeah. There's Andy Madecki, who's running the Kenwood and Yokohama colours as he did at Winton. This is a few rounds beforehand. Probably a bit more money in the bank at this point because, as I said before, well, as you saw in 87, he was running second-hand components a lot of the time to save money.
Yep.
There's Greg Hansford behind in the Moffat-owned car.
ANZ sponsored.
Getting ready for the Enduro season.
So was that sponsorship or a loan from ANZ?
Oh, the way interest rates were in 89, I'd hope sponsorship.
Yeah. Well, they'll make enough money out of us.
Still are.
So there's a yellow flag being waved as they come down into turn one. I just noticed out of the corner of my eye. Can't quite see what for. No, can't see what for.
Perhaps it's actually a Longhurst supporter and they're just standing in a really awkward position.
Yeah, no, it was a yellow flag, but that's... So Longhurst...
Going round
and stopping and starting. Great footage. You can tell it's... We're in 108p here.
Is this going to be another one where you're talking about cars going round and round in circles while we talk about it?
No, not really.
Because I have to admit that amused a few people.
Did it?
Know. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we said some spectacularly inane and stupid things last time round.
We were the commentary team. That's our job.
Oh yes, true indeed. There's Diggy Johnson buggering off up front.
So someone's in the pits, and I can't quite get a read on who it is. And of course, we don't have a pit reporter or a camera in the pits at this stage.
Yep.
Or if they do, they're busy somewhere else. So we're looking at the back of 11 or 14s to see, surprise, surprise, Andy Madecki still up his ginger. And can't quite pick who's behind Andy Madecki. I think it might be Brad Jones.
I think it's Bill. No, wait, that's Mobile. No, it's Greg Hansford.
It's Greg Hansford, one of the other white Sierras with blue on it.
Yes, followed by the blue Sierra of Glenn Seaton.
A baby-faced assassin.
We're going to use that one to death, aren't we?
Well, they did.
True. There's Bob Holden in front of him, I believe, number 13, and in front of that is
in the 86.
In the 86.
I got it right this
time. You got it right. Yep.
KE 86.
AE 86.
AE.
Jeez.
I don't know.
635 CSI, Summer Reaver, that was pre-paint job. Looks like they've just gone around there. Still heading around, going into the kink, which is famous for something that happened about 6 or 7 years later when 3 Super Tourers tried to go through it at the same time.
Yeah.
If you ever see a shot of that, literally how the hell nobody lost it, I have no idea.
So... Andy's fighting on furiously as they try and get past the back marker, and 11 or 14's holding his ground quite well. The car seems to be handling well. Do you think it's got a polariser in it? I'm sure there were boxes and boxes of them out at Nutfield.
Just don't go there.
Okay.
I think, if there are boxes and boxes of them, why is Bev making new ones? That looks like a John Faulkner.
And that's a front bumper. Smack bang in the middle of the track. So right about now, if it was 2018, we'd be going safety car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags. But no, back in the day, we just stuck out a flag and drove around it.
Yep. Well, this was only a few years after we went around Bathurst picking up cars with tow wagons on the truck. Whilst cars were going by at full pelt.
Yep.
So, hey, well, no, actually, they were in a yellow flag condition, so they were going 95% of full pelt.
Perhaps back then they actually slowed down for yellow flags, Warbster.
Nah. Don't believe you.
Righto. Okay. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
So we're 13 minutes into the telecast, and we haven't got a ticker, so we don't know who's leading.
Dick Johnson.
Well, we do. We know it's Dick, but you wouldn't know for looking. And obviously, Dick's despite Dick being at his home track and leading the race, bugger all coverage at this stage. We've got the cameras firmly focused. 11 or 14.
Yeah. No, it's Brocky. Brocky.
So there's a Commodore. Look, a Commodore.
That's the Blue Haven Pools car of probably Rita Awadallah. Sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly.
Okay. Queensland local?
Yeah, the Middle Eastern part of Queensland. There's the second of the Corollas.
Yeah, Bob Holden?
No, I think that's actually... Well, it's one of the Toyota team cars.
Yep.
Let me go past Awadallah. Gets out of the way. Brocky's just heading down here. What is the obsession with Brocky? Honestly. He's not winning and we're following him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I bet Mike's saying really, really nice things about him too. As they come down the hill from Elverleen Hill, coming up on another back marker.
It's the Gazelle.
Oh, it is the Gazelle.
It's the Sala Gazelle. I don't think it's driven by Sala this time around.
Okay.
I think he actually popped a pay driver in it for this round.
Yep.
There's we've finally got DJ on the camera. Thank
good
goodness.
on you, Dick.
Yeah, good.
Well done, Dick.
Famous Redbacks. That's good. We'll get the Ford fans back with this one.
Yep. Famous Palmer Tube Mills sponsorship, Ross Palmer, who later went on to go broke.
Hang on. He had the 24-hour race for a couple of years.
He did, and he ran the alternative racing series that became the AMRS, which then evolved into the Shannons. So, which was Pro Car. He ran the Pro Car series.
That's right, he did.
Hello.
Hello.
We've had a serious crash here.
There's Lusty Ellison.
We've got Lusty Ellison. We've got a car on fire. The fire utes arrive. We've got another car out in the middle. That you've got 3 cars involved in this.
One will be the Lusty Commodore.
Right about now, someone's going to drop a fire extinguisher. Yep, we're going to squirt a fire extinguisher from so far away from the car, it's not going to do anything. And right about now, we have a complete whiteout. And I can tell you right now, I have been in this situation as a fire marshal where you've got... And there's crowd are jumping the fence. We've got people going everywhere. We've got a second car on fire. And there's your fixed camera from the bridge. And what you're seeing there, ladies and gentlemen, is about as much as it. Here we go, 11 or 14. Yeah, just drive through the smoke, Cole. Don't worry about the poor marshal standing on the side of the track, Brocky.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I would have been going a little bit slower than that.
And what we can report right about now is that luckily the drivers are all out and nobody is injured seriously, and certainly nobody's suffering burns from these fires. But
yes,
somebody's
exit 1 VL Commodore.
Yeah, that's a VL down the chute.
I think the blue Sierra was Glenn Seaton's car. There it is.
So while the marshal was actually keeping himself in a safe position, his firefighting efforts possibly left a little bit to be desired. And there's another one, and the boys are in, and they're in hard at it. That's some good work. A two-man fire attack with foam and powder. As you can see, cars still going through. I don't believe the red flag's been shown yet.
Get the camera out of shot. Jeez Louise.
I don't believe the red flag's been shown yet, Warbster.
Might be. I don't know. I mean, why on earth would you continue a race under these circumstances? I don't know.
That's what used to happen back in the day.
That looks like... Well, Glenn Seaton's Sierra is pretty much staffed, and that's going to an ad break.
Yep.
Let's see what we got now. There's Wilco.
There's Wilco, so we're back for the restart.
He's looking a bit burned, is Wilco.
Well, it's pretty hot up there in Queensland.
I reckon.
That's what happens when you're sponsored by the Park Royal and you sit out on the pool deck with all the maidens.
You reckon he was doing a quagmire trying to get some...
So here's a replay.
That's a production car race.
That is a serious amount of guardrail being taken out there by a Starion and an RX-7, and the Starion has...
Oh, jeez.
And the flag marshal's actually jumped clear of the flag point, and the car went over the top of them.
Luckily, the inflatable kangaroo was okay, though. Yeah, here's the replay. Andy Madeki up the outside of Val. Ooh.
Yeah,
he just went straight in.
Yep.
Nothing.
So you've got Medecky out, Seaton out, and Brian Callahan. One of the Callahans, did you say?
No, it was Lusty Brothers.
Oh, one of the Lusty brothers.
And also, I think Murray Carter got caught up in that. But,
Yep.
that was the Black
Oh,
Sea
so
era.
Murray was that was the other fire from.
Yeah, that was the other fire. Yeah.
Murray's fire.
Yep. Poor Murray. He started off in the custom line, as everyone mentions every time he's mentioned on coverage. There's we're back again. DJ, Sierra, Nissan, Sierra. We're talking about 7 or 8 manufacturers in the 12 hour. We're back to 3 now.
Yep.
Christ, it's boring.
So Bagnall, so your top 10's changed obviously with Seaton and Medecky out, and we're here for a restart. Can't see the flag. Flag's down. And who's going to win the drag race into turn 1?
You'd think DJ'd bugger off again.
You think he would, but
He's got the...
and he did.
Yep.
The big question is, can Brocky stay with him? He's going to be fighting off Tony Longhurst shortly. So
Has he got the bananas to keep up?
well, yeah, and has he got the money in the bank to build it fast enough? Is the other question.
Don't know. Ask Andy Rouse on that one.
Not quite sure. Not quite sure what lap we're on or what our restart's been, because we're listing with no commentary. Listing with no commentary. Oh my god. Oh, can I give up now?
We're gonna have to start instead of Murray Walkerisms. We're gonna have DSOisms.
Please, I'm not here to commentate the races. Oh, hang on, yes I am. So
anyway, stretched out in a nice line there.
So we can, by the looks of the shadows, we can see that it is fairly late in the afternoon.
They did have to redo all of the guardrail that got destroyed by the VL, which is a sizable amount, and also get the cars out of there.
Is that a bit like Sandown?
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. So Gricey's a guest commentator. Good on you, Gricey. Great to have you, son. And
but we would normally have the sound engineer as our guest commentator, but he's not here.
No, he's off working, catching a few shifts before he goes back to school.
Oh joy!
That's what young people do. Apparently, work part time and then go to school.
Yeah, I just luxuriate around a pool all day because I'm the warp stop.
Got a big billboard up behind the pool yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay. So,
speaking of billboards, there's some very nice ones there.
Yeah, there's a Shell billboard and
there's a Volvo. Then there's like the Volvo LVO.
And Jack Peterson and Yokohama.
Don't smoke.
Don't smoke. So we need the young person to tell us not to smoke.
Because according to the federal laws, tobacco advertising is wrong, and you'll immediately take up smoking if you watch it. Speaking of smoking, there's some tyre smoke there as Tony tries to pull another move on Brocky.
Come on, Tone.
Wasn't quite as successful as last time. Oh, I think you'll get him. He's working him. He's working him. Main difference between these two is the tyres. One's on Pirellis, the other is on Bridgestones. I've got a feeling this one's just a matter of time, because if you have a look, he's just lurking there. He's lurking there, and as we all know, Tony's not afraid to feed a bumper when he feels like it.
No.
No, around the out. Don't think you want to go around the outside, Tony, but he's going to try to cross over, maybe.
Try to switch back. No, maybe not. Warpster, have you noticed the difference in telecast, this one to episode 1 from Winton? There's no coverage from the pit lane in this episode.
It's not wet.
It's not wet, but I don't know. It seems like it's lacking something. Whether they're I don't know, a couple of cameras short, or it just seems to be.
Well, it would be a different crew here, because it would be HSV7 in Victoria. It would be QTN, I think it is in Brisbane. So you'd be looking at a different crew. Obviously, Mike Raymond's the executive producer. Wilco, all the on-air personalities are still the same, but the actual physical crew members themselves are different.
So your cameramen and your OB van guys and all those sorts of people. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe they just didn't have the resources that they do down south.
Yeah, it doesn't look as produced's a bad word, but it doesn't look as polished to my eye.
Yeah, well, I mean, back then we didn't have Supercars Media and their contingent of thousands looking after the events.
And certainly no super slow-mo. I mean,
Yeah.
we're struggling to get a replay, let alone a slow-mo.
I'm waiting for, public toilet cam to appear on the Supercars coverage on the red button, to be honest.
Right.
You know. You imagine, Scafie and Crompo commentating that. Oh, the fly's down! Oh, he's whipped it out!
No.
And those
Actually, speaking of
those nightmares are brought to you by the Warp Stop.
and there goes Tony Longhurst, finally gets past 11 or 14. Brocky comes back at him, thinks about giving him a nudge, but no. And Tony's about to drive away, which proves that Brocky was holding him up. Little bit of commentary news, Warbs. Speaking of commentary teams, Larko's back in the fold at Foxtel. So good to see. He's obviously they needed someone to replace the thruster.
Well, who's going to take over on the 10 coverage?
Well, will he do double duty? I don't know.
We can only hope.
I mean, the man that I really want to be on the coverage, sadly, is still running his Albury-based team. Because Brad Jones would just be absolutely sensational on the coverage.
Yes.
Funny, very, very funny, naturally funny, not afraid to give it out or to take it, and extremely knowledgeable.
Also means...
Oh, no, Brocky
Brocky's
locked the
gone.
front. Oh, he caught it, missed the time.
How is it that every time a race happens that we do, Brocky ends up losing it somehow? This wasn't by design.
You sure you haven't gone through the DVD and picked all the ones where Brocky runs off?
No, not at all.
Do you know why he ran off? The car doesn't have a polarizer in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they probably did put a polarizer in it at first, but then the turbo set it on fire.
Something hanging down behind the back wheel there. Warbster, did you catch that?
No, it's not a polarizer.
Oh, it could be on a bit of string. Have a look.
There's no antenna.
That's the sticker on the back window.
Yeah.
Ford didn't say he couldn't put a polarizer in his cars, only Holden did.
No, Ford said, give us some money and go away. Well, no, actually, that was Andy Rouse.
Andy
Ford
Rouse,
had nothing
yes.
to do with it. Ford was just like, la, 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 we don't know.
Ford didn't care, not 1 ounce. So there's the 635.
Summer Eva, again,
Yep.
doing the Thexton job of getting himself on camera by being lapped.
Yep.
Although, admittedly, Summer Eva didn't spend half as much money as Thexton did.
I wonder who was richer.
Thexton.
You get that selling a Coca-Cola Amatil. Selling out to Coca-Cola Amatil, but that's another story. So there's JB. So I can quite categorically state that if we were to look at JB at the end of this telecast with a hat on and look at a picture of him today, he's almost the ageless. He's the other ageless veteran.
He's the other ageless veteran.
He's the other ageless veteran, drinking from the fountain of youth, I'm led to believe.
I actually think that, no, you would be able to tell the difference because...
here we go. This race got Dick, Tony,
There's someone
Bowie,
blown up as
Jim,
well.
Brocky. Someone had blown up. There was smoke everywhere.
Brocky,
Brocky,
Sierra,
six,
Nissan,
who's in sixth,
Sierra.
who's in sixth.
No one, they're not
No one's
telling
in
us.
sixth.
Oh, there's
Country practice.
Yeah, and that was Andy Medecky. Oh no, Andrew Bagnall.
Yep.
That was the car that blew up.
Yep.
That was the other Medecky Motorsport car. They've had a horrible day.
Yep.
Guess who's racing at the 12 hour this year?
Bagnall.
Yep.
Gullivers. Well, I was going to say, good luck with your travels. So here's 11 or 14.
On Richo.
Trying to put it on Richo. Richo will be gentlemanly and let him through, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. No, I don't think he's got a choice at this point. Tell you what.
Lucky didn't give him a rub there.
These days, that would not happen that way.
No.
It would have been absolutely served at that point.
and Richo gave him a wave, which those of you with a keen eye, he knew that knew Brocky was quicker than him, gave him a hand out the window and said, there it is.
Yep.
I'm not going to fight you for it.
Because there's no point binning it. Ooh, bit of lock up there.
No.
Yeah, Richo and Brocky, probably two of the better ones in terms of not running into people. Because back then it used to cost money. I believe that's Andrew Bagnall there.
Yeah, it is. I was very, very impressed with the moustache of his chief mechanic there. Very, very fashionable at the time.
Bit of a Van Gisbergen, you reckon? Or?
No. Great big great big fat handlebars moustache.
Oh,
like very,
lovely.
very New South Wales traffic cop.
Nice. No, I think the different. Oh, there's
There's
Fred.
Fred. When you're Freddie,
Is that happy?
it's pensive. Yeah, definitely
angry?
pensive. Yeah, get the camera. Will you get that fucking camera out of my face? That was that was.
Oh, that was yeah. It's like I'm trying to concentrate here. Bugger
I was
off.
going to say I'm going to have to put another insert into that one. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
That's all right. We bleep out the swear words to keep it family friendly, but you all know what we really mean. So,
If you remember what
definitely getting darker because we're seeing the flash of flame on the overrun from the turbo cars.
and you can tell this is before they had good enough cameras to see the brake rotors, or else we'd be having slow-mo brake rotor shots every 5 seconds.
Yeah, filmed in 108p. Low definition.
No
Sorry,
definition.
ultra low definition.
No definition. It's got about as much definition as my muscles.
So hang on, why is there a car parked on the side of the track next to the guardrail? Why didn't we bring the safety? Oh, sorry, there is none.
Yeah, there's no safety car. There's no safety.
So hang on, you're telling me that they just used to take ads and let the racing continue?
Yeah.
Was this racing or motortainment?
You're gonna have to bleep that out.
No,
Motortainment.
you invented it.
There's a swear word.
You invented it.
I didn't invent it.
Actually, Cochrane invented it.
Concord invented it. Thank you.
Black Wiggle invented bloody motortainment. So there's Greg Hansford in the Alan Moffat Sierra. We know it's the Alan Moffat Sierra because it's got his name across the windscreen, the windscreen banner.
But if it makes you feel any better, Greg Hansford, in the first few months he was over in Europe motorcycle racing, they thought he was a German bloke called Hans Ford. No, that's actually legit. I'm not.
You serious?
Yeah. There's Mort Brown, chief Brock apologist.
Yes.
He's the man who continues.
See that moustache was nowhere near as impressive as the bloke from Medecky and Bagnall's team.
Well, Mort's got fish to fry. I mean, after Brocky went to HRT and disbanded Advantage Racing, he actually went to Bridgestone as one of their heavy hitters.
He did too. That's where I remember that name from also. In the later period of time.
I believe the mid-90s.
When HSV were exclusively on Bridgestone and nobody else could get near them for a period of time. So Gricey's still in the commentary box.
Probably.
Obviously, there's a couple of grey nurses in it because they're grey back then. A couple of grey nurses in it for Bricey to come and say a few nice words. He does live down the road at Broadwater, so
I actually think that it would have been a bit awkward in the commentary box with him, turning around and moving his head with the Akubra, just knocking people's heads and poking their eyes out and stuff like that.
they're not that big. So there's Ovlov corner. I know that's only if they're running backwards. Flag point 3, I know that because it's got a great big 3 on it. I'm the king of stating the obvious right about now.
So we're just talking about cars going round and round in circles.
Yep, we are. So we're 31 minutes, and you've only got about 9 or 10 minutes of this left if you are still with us out there in podcast land. So
Yeah, if you're trying to get this in before getting up for the work and going in the shower, not knowing why anyone would want to listen to us first thing in the morning, but
no way.
If you are, you've got about 9 minutes left. So
there's Tony Longhurst in the number 25 Benson and Hedges Don't Smoke Sierra. Is that the Sala Gazelle? It is, I think.
There's the Sala Gazelle. I can't recall who's actually driving it. There's
Frank. There's my man.
There's your man with the headwear.
And he's adjusting the hat.
his
Thanks,
hat.
Frank. You've done it just for me. I'm going to put mine back on, Warpster. Hang on.
Okay.
Just got. They are resplendent in white terry toweling, Warpster. Have a look at this.
Do you have any idea how hard it is to take you seriously when you're wearing that?
Do you take me seriously at any time?
Good point.
So Tone's obviously the new focus. We've got to give Tone a bit of airtime because 11 or 14 got far too much.
What about the bloke winning the race? When are we going to look at him?
Why would you show Queensland's own winning a race at a Queensland racetrack? Why would you bother? It's not broadcast into Queensland. It was only broadcast everywhere else. Oh, there, and speak of the devil, there's Dick.
Oh, that's right. That was when we only broadcast, to selected areas
Correct.
of Australia at selected times because third-rate VFL took precedence over nationally nationally televised touring car racing. There, I'll spit that out now.
Correct.
I'll learn to speak English in a minute.
Correct. So here we go with the race score. It's Dick from Tone, from JB, from Pierre. Fifth is Greg Hansford.
And they're only going to give us the top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cole, we've gone to an ad. We've gone to a Tim. And Dick's obviously still in front because he's getting a bit of airtime as we cross back. There's
Hans Ford.
There's Hans driving his Ford, chasing down 11 or 14. And that, I tell you, you'd reckon they'd got race cam better than that by now. I suppose look at the quality of the graphics. What am I talking about?
Well, it's very good for Bill, whoever Bill is. I'm not sure about Mo, but Bill's looking pretty good.
Oh, Mo and Bill.
Mo and Bill, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sounds like a bad comedy movie, doesn't it? Mo and Bill's Excellent Adventure.
I was thinking they were more like the Australian version of Stadler and Waldorf.
I reckon if we keep doing these for much longer, we'll become the Australian version of Stadler and Waldorf.
What do you mean we'll become? So we went to see Book of Mormon the other night, and we were up right high in the cheap seats because I don't earn as much as you.
Yeah.
And the podcast sound engineer says to me, "I'm going to sit down over there." And I said, "Where?" He said, "Who are the two?" Knowing quite well I'd be able to reel them straight off. He said, "In the seats that the two old blokes from the Muppets sit in." He said, "Why aren't we in the Stadler and Waldorf seats?"
Parenting done right.
Absolutely.
Anyway, ANZ getting a bit of play there.
Yep.
ANZ actually supported him off through a fair bit. It was actually one of the sponsors for the 87 car that he took to Europe for the WTCC, along with Rothmans. Don't smoke.
Rothmans of Pall Mall.
That's the one. Yep. And then they came back with the Rouse car in 87, which was a pile of crap, and bought the Eggenberger car and supported him till, I believe, 91.
So Dick went alone. So Dick built his own cars. Moff and Brocky were in Andy Rouse cars from Rouse Engineering in the UK.
Moff was the 87 car that Moff raced at Bathurst was Rouse. After that, he bought an Eggenberger car.
Right.
Which is how Class Needfits ended up going there every year for a good long while.
Okay.
So what's the Ford of Europe?
So Brocky's in a Rouse car.
Very much in a Rouse car. Yep.
Frank Gardner's cars.
Bit of everything.
Yep.
Because Frank Gardner would have had the contacts in, especially England, from when he was racing over there.
Yep. And in a lot of homegrown engineering into them as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Frank Gardner, probably one of the more underrated fabricators in Australian history. I mean, just look at the Chev Corvair sports sedan from the 70s, if you don't believe that.
Cedo's car?
Rouse, I believe.
Yep.
Rouse was sort of the cheaper option if you were looking around. A few Wolf Sierras were built, especially the one for Francevic down under, but they only built a few and then disbanded.
Yep.
That was actually the CMS team, which was originally the European Volvo team.
Okay, yep, gotcha.
Krista Lindholm and company in Sweden.
So, by my reckoning, Warbster, I think that we'd have to be on either the penultimate lap, or the penultimate lap,
or the penultimate last lap but one,
or the penultimate last lap bar one.
Okay, you're getting into a loop here. Just settle down for a minute. I think the Sun's getting to the point where they're going to have to call it at some point very shortly.
Are you saying this is a time certain race or a light certain race?
A bit of both. There's JB on the JOB.
Yes. So I'm waiting for the little man to hold out the last lap board, as was the order of the day back then.
Because I don't think the headlights are going to work very well with sponsorship logos over the top of it.
No. No, I don't. They have a decidedly yellow colour to them.
The be like Ludo's funky glasses.
Yes. Yeah, no Ludo back in these times.
They didn't need to be told to push.
No, and you're not going to get much out of the headlights of Moffat's things because they're painted white.
Maybe he's got a tiger in his tank.
Oh, beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Yeah, it's amazing. I do references that are so old, even I don't get them. So we're just looking at Mo and Bill here.
Yep.
Bob Jones probably feels ripped off right now. He's probably thinking, wow, I wish I'd sponsored that car. I remember back in the old days when Grice's Commodore used to get all this action.
Oh, yeah. So, while we talk about race cam, I suppose we do need to say, Warbster, that Channel 7 were the international pioneer of putting a camera in a racing car.
With Willow.
Peter Williamson, at originally at Bathurst.
Yep.
Sydney privateer and long-time Toyota stalwart. And they used to fly the helicopter around the track to try and track the signal. And ended up, it evolved from a great big heavy box right through to the lipstick cam that we're used to today. But yes, it was an Australian invention, and they took it all over the world. And interestingly, Larry Perkins was never one to want to carry a race cam in his car, because he felt that anything at all that could lead to distraction or disadvantage wasn't worth it.
This was until Castrol told him to have the camera in the car.
And that was a fair bit later. Interestingly, when you look at races like the Bathurst 12 Hour and some of the other races that are covered on live streaming and other sources, drivers have the option to take the offer of a camera, but it costs them money.
Yes.
These days. So rather than aiming for free publicity, I mean, we know that they're in every supercar, that's part of the package, but in some of the other categories, if you're prepared to put your hand out, you can, prepared to put your money where your mouth is, you can pay to have a camera to get some additional footage to the package.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at sort of the amount of signage that the 888 cars have these days with that movie screen in the middle of the dash, it's worth it.
I think the going rate at the 2015 Dubbo Hill Climb was $4,000 to put an in-car camera into one of the Class I cars.
So instead you strapped a Penguin in?
Oh, that was the other car.
Oh, okay. No, Pengy was a very good co-driver that day.
Yeah, Pengy did well. He did more laps than the other car.
Well, it was the co-driving, Get to the top of the hill, turn left.
Yeah. Flap your little penguin wings.
Exactly.
So
that's one way of getting extra aero, I suppose.
Absolutely. So we're down to a minute and a half left in this telecast, Warbster, and
DJ's still going around.
I don't think we're going to get the beauty of a podium here.
Don't reckon?
Oh, I tell you, they're going to have to make it fast. I haven't seen the last lap, man. So
well, no, the way DJ's going, it probably will be. You'll probably have a few minutes left, maybe.
Was a very, very short circuit.
It was a bloody quick car too.
And a very, very fast track too.
There it is, there's a flag.
There we go. Some bloke in shorts, side of the racetrack. Love those socks.
At least he put his tinny down. Professionalism.
4X. Do you know why they... No, it's too much of an old joke.
Yes.
So
it is.
There we have it. Dick.
11 or 14 again.
11 or 14. Like we wouldn't show Dick on his, waving to his adoring Queensland crowd, would we? No.
There's Chris Lambden in the background going, I wonder what happens if I get a Coyote engine.
Yes.
There's Dick Johnson. He's waving.
Good on you, Dick.
Yep.
Marshals are all waving and clapping and cheering frantically for the homegrown. And
Caltech's
right,
race score
Caltech's
is
race score.
DJ, Longhurst and Bow. So Sierra 1, 2, 3. And that's the lot.
That's the end of it. So thanks very much for coming on board with us for episode 3 of the Touringcast.
Very, very grateful for all of your support and comments and criticisms and everything. All the interaction's been wonderful lately, guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Except for certain supercar drivers who I apologise to.
Guess you should have messaged him.
Yeah, should have. Oh well. Anyway, that's us for this time around.
So don't forget www.facebook.com/Supercar Insiders for all of your mirth, hilarity, and assorted racing nonsense.
Yes, thank you very much for that plug, DSO, and that's us. Bye.
This has been a Supercar Insiders production. For more, go to www.facebook.com/supercarinsiders. Also, look up the podcast DSO's page. He's got some interesting stuff to say.